Hey guys, hope you're having a good day. Today we're going to talk about some of my favorite places to take pictures inside the Walt Disney World Resort. Okay, so let's get started with showing you my shirt, which is I think how I'm going to start all my videos. This is my Big Thunder Mountain themed shirt. It's just a doodle of the ride with the word wild there. Kind of an understated design. I like really simple stuff, so yeah. And then I also got these ears from Etsy, and I will link to the shop down below. I bought these for my last trip that I took in the spring, and I love these so much. Even though I've gotten to where I wear hats more in the parks because I like how they shade, you know, the sun a little bit, but you still gotta wear ears at least a little bit. Okay, so today we're gonna talk about photography, and I'm a photographer in my everyday non-Disney life, and so I thought this would be a fun topic. It was suggested on Instagram, and I can't remember who told me about it, or I would shout her out. I'm so sorry. I feel terrible for not remembering, and I even looked on Instagram and I couldn't find the message, but anyway, sorry. So since I work as a photographer, and I work at a college, so a lot of the photography that I do is promotional stuff and event-based. And then I have a wedding photography business, which is also like event photography. So since I do that all the time, when I'm at the parks, my eye is just naturally like thinking about where I want to take pictures. And I try not to go overboard because my husband, he has a lot more patience with me now than he did in the beginning. At first it was like pulling teeth to get him to take a picture. But now he's better with me, like handing off the camera and letting him take pictures of me instead of trying to get him to take pictures with the both of us in them. So anyway, I just wanted to put together a little list of the top. I went with about 4 from each park and then some from resorts and such. Places that I like to take pictures in the parks. So we're going to start with Magic Kingdom, and I'm probably going to be looking down a lot in these videos, so I'm just going to like overlay the pictures on top of me so that you don't have to look at me looking at my computer. Okay, so first is the Tomorrowland Rocks, which this is right across from the purple wall. And if you turn around from the galactic wall, you will see the castle and the cool Tomorrowland sign in the background. This spot is a little tricky with a camera where you don't have control over the settings. So I would say if you're using a phone, I mean, you could try it, but it may not work very well because the area in front of you is all building, and so you're not going to have any light, or like most of the light is going to be coming from behind you. Speaking of light, like it's so dark in my office right now because it's so gloomy outside. We're getting the remnants of the tropical storm right now, so it's just been raining constantly. And my backyard is like an inch of water. Anyway, so this is one of my favorite spots in Magic Kingdom, and I just did this picture on our last trip and really loved the way that it turned out. The second spot is the purple wall, which I was thinking like I should do a lot of these more unique, but to be honest, I like the purple wall, and so I'm going to include it. And depending on the time of day, it may be in the shade or it may be in the sun like it is here. I kind of like the sunny look. I like that you can see the shadow and you can kind of play around with your pose, and it can, I don't know, it's just a little more fun. Those are in the same area in Tomorrowland, so if you take the route, actually you just walk regular into Tomorrowland and hang a right as soon as you get over the bridge, and you'll find both of those spots. The next one is the castle, which I kind of like to deviate away from the central, like looking down Main Street view, which is where all the PhotoPass photographers are. So if you just walk around the hub, pretty much anywhere, you're going to be able to get the castle in the background, and you may be able to get like some of these cool shrubs, light fixtures, things like that. I guess they have flowers all year round. I didn't go back and look at all my pictures, but this was a spring photo, and they had beautiful like fuchsia colored flowers out. So I thought that complemented the blue sky really well. And pay attention to what direction your light is coming from. So since this was coming from the side, when I was looking straight at the camera, there was, you know, shadows on my face. But if I looked off, you know, towards the sun, it just, I don't know, it looks nice. So that's what I did there. But yeah, pretty much anywhere around the hub, you can get good castle shots without them being the generic straight on pictures. So yeah, just play around with that. Find some new spots every time you go. And then my last one in Magic Kingdom, which I feel like I could do an entire video on Magic Kingdom, but I would probably need to go back and like take new pictures because I don't have a ton with me in them, if that makes sense. And that's kind of what I was going for this video. But anyway, so Main Street, all along Main Street, you'll find adorable windows. If you've never paid attention, just kind of like look at the windows as you walk down Main Street. They usually have really cute displays. This one is outside the Main Street Cinema, which is where they have all the art and they play, or they have in the past, I don't know if they do all the time, they play the little shorts on the screen in there. So I just loved the way these posters looked in the background. And it's right up against a wall, so you can kind of get out of the way a little bit. And I use a wide angle lens especially for situations like this where I don't want my husband to be like 6 feet back trying to get a picture of me while people are walking through. If you have a wide angle lens, the person taking your picture can be like, you know, a couple feet in front of you and not blocking the way. So yeah, that helps out a lot. All right, so let's move on to Epcot. In Epcot, obviously, front of Spaceship Earth is going to be a huge one. You can really, I go off to the side, again, like I do with the castle. Partially because I'm a little self-conscious, so standing there in the middle of like a sea of people trying to get my picture made is like embarrassing to me, which is stupid. Like nobody's paying attention to me, so I don't know why I care. But I like to go off to the left. So I'm not really sure what this spot is going to look like once they finish the refurb of the entrance. Right now, or actually like since the last time I was there, it's changed, but they had those monoliths there, so I would go off to the left of the monoliths and take my picture there. And the closer you get to Spaceship Earth, the harder it is to get, you know, more of it in there. So if you kind of come back closer to the turnstiles, you can even get the monorail beam in it, like this one shot that I have, which I should have had my husband stand there and wait for the monorail to go by, but like I said, he doesn't have a whole lot of patience for the, you know, picture taking. So yeah, I would say just go off to the left and kind of find the best lighting, because like in that one shot there's dappled lighting, so it's really not great. And if I had gone forward a little bit and found some better shade, it would have looked better. So the second spot in Epcot that I love is the Imagination Pavilion. Ignore this ridiculous, like it's not even a pose, I'm just like standing there, it's ridiculous. This was from one of our really early trips. Again, the monorail would have really made it pop. So I highly recommend this spot, and then just wait for the monorail, because you have the fountain with the pyramids, and you also have Spaceship Earth kind of hiding out back there. And the Imagination Pavilion, if you go in Epcot and you go to Future World, oh gosh, I don't know which one's east and which one's west. The one off to the right, that's where the Imagination Pavilion is going to be. There's bajillion signs. You will not get lost. Just look for the pyramids and you'll see them. And I love Figment, so you need to go over there anyway, even if you're not taking pictures. Okay, so World Showcase, pretty much all the countries, actually not pretty much, all the countries have beautiful spots to take photos. So I'm not going to go through all of those. I'm going to point out one particular spot that's across from Spaceship Earth. Like, it's not America. America is like the one that's right across from it. It's not America. I think it's Italy. Anyway, I love to get pictures looking across the lagoon at Spaceship Earth. And one thing to note about this is you really need a wide angle lens for this shot, because if you zoom in, you're going to compress the background too much and you're not going to be able to see Spaceship Earth. So in mine, Spaceship Earth is a little blurry, but like you can see it. You can tell that it's there. I could even have stopped down a little bit in my aperture and made it a little more crisp, but it doesn't really matter to me, honestly. I pretty much leave my aperture wide open all the time unless it's super bright and sunny. The second one around World Showcase is when it's sunny, and I did stop my lens down a little bit for that one, but I love the bright sunny days. I feel like the gloomy days are so boring for pictures, even though I know sunlight can sometimes make things tricky with photography. I personally love it, and I love to make it work for me. And in as far as like the direction of the light and such, if that makes any sense. Okay, so the last one is a bubblegum wall, which is another similar to the purple wall, really popular. Like, you're not going to be doing anything fancy or unique with this one, but there's a reason they're popular. It's because they're really cute. So, so yeah, this is a really cute spot. This is another one where I feel hugely self-conscious because there's people, the people that are exiting Spaceship Earth are going to walk right by you. It's super awkward. So I usually just like jump in there and like, okay, Rhett, take like 20 pictures really quick. And then I'm like moving around looking like an idiot, like, yeah, hey. So, yeah, if you're self-conscious, just get ready. And then also there's an app, let me see if I can find what it's called, where you can remove the line. It's just called Retouch. So I have the app called Retouch. I could have done that in Photoshop before I uploaded it, but if I'm gonna post it on Instagram, I'll do it. If not, I'm just gonna leave it. But yeah, you can retouch that line down the wall if it bothers you. So let's move on to Hollywood. I only have 2 in Hollywood Studios because I really haven't taken a ton of pictures around there. I don't know what my deal is with Hollywood Studios, but we just don't go there very often. But one of my favorite spots is in front of this little statue, which is just at the end of Hollywood Boulevard before it opens up in front of the theater. And it's off to your left. You will probably not miss it. Just get to the end of the buildings, look off to your left, and there it is. It's just a cool statue, and it kind of, I don't know, shows the vibe of Hollywood Studios. And then Toy Story Land. I don't have a lot of pictures in Toy Story Land because I have only been a couple times, and it's so crowded. Like, I guess because there's only one in and out, it's so hard to get pictures without people in them. And I know this picture is ridiculously, like, I don't know, rare because there's nobody in it. But when I was pregnant, I did my pregnancy announcement in Toy Story Land because my last name is Woody. And so I bought this Woody doll, and then I went to Toy Story Land first thing, like as soon as it opened. And this was a time when it was actually good that it was rainy. I mean, it was like, it had been storming all morning. I was kind of afraid this wasn't going to happen, but I made it, and it took me forever to set this up because I couldn't figure out how to prop him up. I ended up using my phone to prop him up, and there was a cast member that was trying to help me, but also probably thought I was real weird. But yeah, it worked out, and I thought it turned out cute, and everybody thought I was having a boy because of the Woody doll, but no, that's just because of my name. And Slinky is going by in the background. You can kind of see him, but he's a little blurry. So this spot, I would say you're not going to get a picture from this angle without a bajillion people. So maybe move back to that fence right in front of the roller coaster and just use a wide angle lens and kind of shoot up with the roller coaster in the background. But the colors are like, you just can't beat the colors in Toy Story Land. They're so fun. All right, so moving on to Animal Kingdom is another one that there's a million nice spots. I guess all the parks have a million good photo spots. These are just some of my favorites. The Moss Wall in Pandora. It's just a nice background, you know. It's not super Disney looking, but it's, if you know, you know, you know. And then Everest, which they usually have a photo pass photographer in this general area. So this one isn't super unique, but it's one of my favorites because I love Everest. This is another one that's a little tricky if you don't have automatic, or if you don't have manual settings, because again, it's going to be a little darker in front of you than it is behind you. So I don't know if I said this with the Tomorrowland Rocks one, but if you'll expose for the background a little more, not necessarily like get the background completely exposed correctly, but a little bit darker than you normally would. That way you don't lose all your highlights, and you can bring your shadows up, like your face and your body, like bring the shadows up. I don't know how to describe this without like sounding too technical, but I think you probably understand what I mean. In Lightroom, you see where you can adjust the highlights, shadows, whites and blacks. So you would just take the shadows and the blacks and bump those up to bring yourself back, you know, into the light. Maybe I can do like a live edit of a photo, or not live, but like do a video edit of a photo sometime for you guys to show you how I would edit something like that. Okay, and then this other spot I found not too long ago. This is outside the Maharaja Jungle Trek. So after you exit it, you'll come across this tree with like these cool banner, like tie kind of things. A lot of the spots in Asia in Animal Kingdom are really pretty, like lots of really pretty colors they're colorful, but they're like kind of subdued, if that makes sense. So they're not, like Toy Story Land is like Fisher Price, like bright, you know, elementary school. I don't know how else to describe it. Whereas Animal Kingdom is like really pretty bright, but it's still elegant. So that's one of my favorite little spots that I've found that's kind of off the beaten path. And again, isn't like Disney. It's just pretty background. But obviously the clothes I'm wearing speak to the fact that I'm at Disney World. Okay, so that's all the parks. Those are just a few of my favorites. I could seriously go on and on and on with more. Just look at my Instagram account if you want to see where I've taken pictures, and there's a bajillion other Instagram accounts that take pictures at the parks all the time. So there's no shortage of places. And then also was going to show you a couple of my favorite spots at resorts. So this is at Wilderness Lodge on the boat ramp. We had gotten, like, not dressed up, but, you know, a little dressy for dinner. So I had Rhett take a picture of me on the boat ramp. And then this one is from the Contemporary, which if you've ever stayed at the Contemporary or even just gone to the Contemporary, you've probably seen this cool Mickey sculpture. And there's actually a little spot across from him where you can set your camera down and do a self-timer if you're with your family and you want to all be in the picture. Okay, so this last one from the resorts is at the Polynesian, and so I had these ears made for a like light Moana bound, but since we were staying at the Poly that trip, I took some pictures around the resort because it kind of fit in with the theme. So you can kind of think about that, you know, if you're staying at a particular resort and you want to like plan out your outfit where you can kind of match the resort theme. That could be kind of fun for pictures. Okay, so next I'm going to show you my favorite spot to take pictures of Festival of Fantasy. I love this parade. I hardly ever watch it because usually at 3 o'clock we are snoozing. We like to go take a nap, so that's what we do. But this particular trip, I happened to have my Canon 5D Mark III, which I don't shoot Canon anymore, but I did at the time. And I had my 85mm lens, and it was perfect for this parade. And we were walking out, and just as we were walking out, we're walking out the right side under the train station, and there is a light pole there on the right side of the walkway. And I just like, they tape off the road, you know. So they had this corner there with the tape, and there was nobody standing there yet, and there was a light pole right here, so I knew nobody could like cram up next to me. So I stood right next to that light pole, and then Rhett stood behind me, and it was perfect. So I just got all the floats coming at me and the dancers, and obviously this was before Maleficent had her accident, but I think she's back now. So yeah, that's my favorite spot. I love having the theater in the background. It's really fun to take pictures of it down Main Street, but it just depends on the lighting, whether the pictures are going to be good or not. And this particular day was cloudy, so all the pictures, like the lighting looks fine. Okay, so another thing that I really love to shoot is the Trolley Show. And my favorite spots are, I think it's the second stop down Main Street, because the building will sometimes shade the sun a little bit, so you can get better shots. Having them in full sun is not bad, and you can sometimes get really good pictures with them backlit, but you know, if you can get them in the shade, that's a little easier to shoot. And then also at the end, their last stop at the train station, I think is a really beautiful spot. I've gotten some really pretty light there. Again, I shot it with my 85mm, which I really like to use for shows. The stage shows are also really fun to shoot. I tend to get off to the side a little bit for these because I feel like when you're straight on, I don't know, I just feel like the best angles are from the sides, so you kind of have to pick one or the other, off to the left or off to the right. You kind of have to be a little close to the front, otherwise you're going to have people's heads in your pictures, but if you're zooming in, you can usually get rid of that. And then I'll show you one from the Halloween party, which I may do a completely separate video about the Halloween party. but I loved shooting that stage show too. I forgot about the Festival of the Lion King. I love shooting Festival of the Lion King, and Rhett does not like this show. I think it's so crazy that he doesn't like it. It's so good. Like, it's objectively amazing. Like, it's not even, there's no question. You know, I don't know who is this man? Anyway, so we don't do this show every time we go, but when we do, I try to take pictures. It's really good if you have a zoom lens for this show, because there's just so many performers that you can capture. It's hard, unless you're on the front row, it's really hard to not get people's heads, but you know, if you get their heads in the bottom, whatever, you can still get some pretty pictures. Food. So we go to Epcot during festivals because we love the festivals. We love trying all the new foods, and I like to take pictures of the foods because I write trip reports on WDW Magic Forums. And so I will, since I got the newer iPhone that I have, it's not the newest, but newer, I will use portrait mode and just hold it up and have something relevant in the background. So like if you're in Mexico, have this was taken at the fountain outside the restaurant. Or, you know, if you want to hold it up and have the booth in the background or something like that. I think that works really well. So that's the food. Of course, if you have time and you want to just walk around the trails in Animal Kingdom, that's a really good spot to take pictures of all the animals, the gorillas, the tigers, the other animals. There's a lot of animals. I'm not even going to sit here and try to name them all. But and then you can also obviously take pictures on the safari, which if you're like me, you ride the safari and take a bajillion pictures the first 3 times you ride it, and then you just don't take any more because you've already done it all. So it feels silly to have 100 pictures of the giraffes from 10 different years. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk to you guys about is finding unique angles of common structures. So the first one that I want to talk about is the castle, which we've kind of already talked about that a little bit with the picture of me in front of the castle, about like going into the hub, you know, off to the side and even behind the castle. But you can always find unique angles. If you happen to be sitting somewhere and you look up and you're like, oh, hey, I can see the castle from here. Like, can you take a picture from there? Is it like a cool spot? It might be. So I've got 2 pictures from the plaza. We ate lunch there one day, and I took a couple of pictures of the castle, and they're just different. You know, they're not the typical pictures that you see, and so I really like the pictures. And obviously the one inside the restaurant, you're only going to get that if you have a reservation inside there and happen to get the same table that we got. But I just happened to be sitting there eating lunch, and I was like, oh, look, that would be a really cool picture looking out the window. So I took it. The next spot is of the Haunted Mansion. And for some reason, every time I ride this ride, I take pictures all through the queue, even though I don't do that at other rides. But I loved the way these roses looked out in front of it, so I kind of focused on the roses and had the building in the background, which this would be really cool if I did a sky replacement with it having like dark storm clouds or something like that. But okay, so last but not least, this is in Germany, outside of the Caramel Place, where you get that amazing popcorn. I sat down on a bench and just happened to look, and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. The door, you know, details on the door with the building in the background, so I snapped it. This kind of thing, you know, sometimes you'll just be sitting there eating or talking to your friend or spouse or whatever, and you just happen to see something that looks really unique. So just kind of keep an eye out for that kind of thing in Disney World, because there's tons of details everywhere and different angles to get on those details. I don't like to just run around and take pictures constantly, but if I see something like that that just jumps out at me, I'll try to take it, because let's be honest, I gotta have content for Instagram. So, okay, that's all I really wanted to show you picture-wise. Okay, let's go through some of the cameras that I've used. There's so many cameras out there, you really can't go wrong. When I first started going to Disney World, I had a little crappy point and shoot because I didn't want to take my DSLR, and I still don't really love taking my DSLR. Actually, I don't even have a DSLR anymore. But, so I bought a mirrorless Fuji X-T1, and I loved that little camera, and I had a 35mm lens with it and a 90mm lens with it. And those were both really good lenses. Maybe a little more pricey than what just an average traveler would want to spend. But since I'm a photographer, I kind of justified it that way. I also used it, I let my assistants at my weddings use it to take just like extra shots. So, but I also bought an 18 to 55mm. I believe the aperture range was 2.8 to 4, which was more compact. That worked really well with that camera. It wasn't quite as sharp, so that kind of bothered me, but that's okay. And then I used my Canon 5D Mark III for one trip. I brought my 35mm and my 85mm, which that's kind of what I stick with in my general everyday photography. I do have a 70 to 200 that I use at work, but I don't use that at weddings anymore. I just use an 85 and a 35. So now that I've switched to Sony, I have an A7 III, which if you're in the photography world, you know that is like the it camera. I had it before it was so popular. Okay, I'm not going to be that way. I'm not that person. But I really did. I got it when it first came out. I was so excited to get it because it got back ordered for a long time. So I felt really lucky. And I use it with a 28mm. I'm pretty sure it's a Sony lens. Not 100%. It's a 2.8. It's super small. It's like this long. Really light. So it's perfect for walking around the parks. Actually, it's right here. Derp. So, you can see how small this is. This is a pro camera. I shoot weddings with this camera. Not necessarily with this lens, but yeah. So this 28mm lens, which it doesn't have any markings on it, so I can't even tell you if it's Sony. I'm pretty sure it is a Sony branded lens. And then I also bring my Batis 85mm lens with me for shows. Like I said, I like to shoot shows and parades with the 85mm. And I usually, when I shoot weddings, I don't have a strap. And when I'm shooting at Union, I don't have a strap. But I put a strap on the camera when I take it to the parks because I don't want to drop it. And I have the Mickey Mouse strap too that I might use for this next trip, but I'm not sure. So, okay, I promise this is the last thing. This is going to be the longest video ever, but seriously, I could talk about photography all day. And I'm not even like, I don't take really epic photography or photos at the Disney parks. I just take like kind of general, I'm more of a photojournalist in general, so it's hard for me to take those super epic landscape shots, but I just like to get all the details and all that. Okay, last thing. Aperture is important. If you have control over your aperture, be mindful of what it's set at. If you're wanting to get a lot of the background in focus, you're going to want to stop down. So if your lens can do 1.4, then you don't want to keep it at 1.4 if you're trying to get all your background, you know, sharp. You're going to want to stop it down to like 5.6 or even 6.3. And having the ability to adjust manual settings is super important to me because taking pictures and not being able to adjust the settings makes me really angry. Like, why can't I fix this? It looks wrong. But, you know, most of the time I have a camera that I can adjust manually. And my phone even does a pretty good job. I guess I know at this point, like, okay, this situation my phone's going to do okay with. This situation it's not, so I'll use my camera. But I use my phone a lot more now than I used to because the newer iPhones do a really good job. So, I hope that was helpful and made at least a little bit of sense. If you have any photography questions, let me know. Feel free to comment below. Actually, I would love for you to comment below and let me know your favorite spots in the parks to take pictures, whether that's pictures of yourself or just scenic pictures in the parks. Let me know what you think. And I would love to do another video like this. Like I said, I could ramble about photography all day. I would just have to think of like a specific theme maybe. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope that I inspired you to take pictures next time you're at the park, or, you know, maybe even pick out your own favorite spots and find some new places. So, yeah. Okay, well, thanks again for watching, and I hope you guys have a great week. Bye!